Well, as you've seen, we're at Southorpe Meadow, 2019's best orchid site in this area, in my opinion. But I've got to be honest, I've been here a couple of times this year and it's really been poor. Low in numbers, low in quality, absolutely hammered by the recent drought conditions. But it's been 2 weeks since I've been here. This should be its peak now, so I'm going to give it another chance and see what it's got to offer. The first thing that's hit me is the grass is twice as tall as it was last time I was here 2 weeks ago. So on that basis, if the grass has grown that much, then hopefully the orchids have too. So hopefully it's recovered. I can get back to somewhere near to its very best, and yeah, so it's a fingers crossed job today. Let's see what it's got to offer. It's a big southern marsh orchid site, as we already know, but straight away we're into these typical Southorpe Meadow southern marsh orchids with this incredibly curled up flower face, and I still haven't got to the bottom of what's going on here. No spots on the leaves, just incredibly curled up leaves, and I still have no, as I say, I still have no explanation for that. Common spotted orchid, trying desperately to look like a southern marsh, but it's not. In every sense, that is common spotted. This one's an absolute clonker. This is a big one. Almost certainly a first generation Grandice hybrid, spotted leaves. Yeah, southern marsh flowers really. A little bit of both really, but that's a hybrid and a big one. First generation. We're getting a full set of these early doors. Another big hybrid here. And you know, these are the ones that have been doing my head in because they've got these loops all over the leaves, but I'm fairly happy now. These are just elements of common spotted orchid markings on the leaves of what is otherwise a southern marsh orchid. It's just a hybrid between the two, a Grandice hybrid. That's my latest theory. I'm a bit more comfortable with that one. I think my belief that early marsh orchid is having a say in these is in most cases not the case and not true. Yeah, I think that's a pure white common spotted orchid. For a split second I thought it was a southern marsh, but it's not. It's common spotted. There's no markings on the leaves, but white common spotted orchids don't have spots on their leaves. There's just no pigmentation in either the flower or the leaves, so that's a white common spotted, small one. I mean, look at the state of that. That's not a hybrid. That's a southern marsh orchid, full stop. But I just don't see southern marsh orchids anywhere else that have such a tightly curled flower face. I mean, look at those towards the bottom. I mean, they're almost completely rolled up, and they're like this from birth to conclusion of the flowering season. Very, very strange. Lovely colouring on this pale Southern Marsh orchid. I like that one. I was asking the question last night on social media as to whether a Grande's hybrid always has spotted leaves, and the answer was basically yes if it's first generation. And this is a big one. You'd think this was a first generation, but there's no spots on the leaves. And if I can get there, there's the flower, which is really common spotted in shape. If you look closely, the central lobe is quite distinctly more than just a bulge at the bottom of the flower. It's a lot of common spotted in not only the shape of the flower but the markings as well. So it's a hybrid, but there's no spots on the leaves. And it's quite big, so you know, if I'm to fit in with opinion given last night, it's not a first generation hybrid, and it's maybe back crossed with common spotted to drag it more down the route of common spotted, but without spots on the leaves. I mean, it's chaos really. Not the slightest sign of a spot. Should be Southern Marsh, but it's not. Well, the orchid numbers here at Southorpe are definitely down. I mean, they are definitely down, maybe to the tune of 50% on last season. I think the good news is that the few that have made the effort have definitely come on a lot in the last 2 weeks. We've had quite a bit of rain, and they seem to have responded. So there's some decent orchids here. So my hope now is I can find something a little bit unusual, because at the moment it's just these damned hybrids, and that's just starting to do my head in now. So it'd be nice to find something different, including something that is not a hybrid. How things change. Got to be a butterfly orchid, surely. That's a nice one. Probably the best I've seen. Yeah, spotted leaves, possibly common spotted, but yeah, those sort of, I don't know, those flowers are a bit of both really. There is a bit of a central lobe going on, but they're quite rounded flowers, and you know, it's probably a damned hybrid again, but it's a nice one at least. That patterning's quite spectacular. We'll just leave that one as a really nice orchid, I think. Small but cute. Common spotted, total common spotted. Nice to see. Lovely markings. They're very similar to the last one. I think all the plants in this particular patch are related. They've all got fantastic patterning on them. That's another, well, that one is a common spotted, simply because you can see the separation of the flower lobes, and it's got spotted leaves. That's a full-on common spotted. Long may it remain. Another clonker in this patch, and another full-blown common spotted, no messing around. That's the sort of plant I was looking for today really, a real clonker. Beautiful patterning. These common spotted are definitely saving the day here. If it wasn't for these, it would be a real struggle. But they're very nice. Certainly packing in some patterning on the leaves. Sorry, on the flowers. I'll stop calling them leaves. Yeah, they're certainly packing in some colour. Very busy flowers. This is an interesting one. As you can see, quite heavily marked leaves. They're almost sort of loops on the leaves rather than spots, but certainly heavily marked, so that's not a southern marsh orchid in its own right. The flowers are quite fantastic. Again, really nicely marked flowers that look more common spotted than they do southern marsh. But what's interesting about this one is the stem is hollow. That stem is hollow. I've just had a squeeze. It's very hollow. That's the domain of the marsh orchid. So again, make what you want of that one. But yeah, lovely markings again. Lovely grouping of good old-fashioned, old-school common spotted orchids. Great to see. Very bold markings on this. Well, it's a southern marsh orchid, 90%. No spots on the leaves, hollow stem. But those markings definitely influenced by common spotted at some time in the past. Unusual on that one. Can't make my mind up what's going to happen in July when these, sort of mid-July, when these pyramidal orchids should be at their peak. Are we going to see a bumper season? Or will a lot of them be finished before they're supposed to have even really got going? They're definitely early this year. There you have it, Southorpe Meadow 2020. Yeah, look, you know, orchid numbers 50% of what they were last year, if that. You can walk up and down this field and not see one orchid in some of the lanes, in some of the sections. You couldn't do that last year. You would be tiptoeing around orchids for fear of treading on them. Numbers are down massively. I think on the positive side, you've got those that were through 2 weeks ago have kicked on. The wet weather we've had in the last 2 weeks has helped. So there's a bit of a show going on, and it's good to see some of the straightforward common spotted. They always had some spectacular common spotted here, and there's still a few of those around. Not as many, but there's a few, enough to keep you interested. But you know, this site goes back 100 years plus. There's orchid books going back to the 1920s that talk about Southorpe Meadow. They used to have things like early spider orchid and some real rarities here back in the day. This place has got history. But it was talked about as a hybrid swarm decades ago, and undoubtedly that's what primarily Southorpe Meadow is. It is one gigantic hybrid swarm where southern marsh and common spotted have got it together for decade on decade on decade, and you're never going to work out exactly what has come together to produce these plants, other than it's common spotted and it's southern marsh. And if you can find a pure southern marsh, you're better than I am, because there's very few. They've all been messed about, and as I say, that's from decades of back crossing. So you know, just enjoy them. I'm actually looking for anything that isn't a hybrid today. That's what I've been doing, and there's a few of them, but this won't be the site of the year in 2020. It's really struggled because of the drought, but it'll be back. It'll have seen this all before, so it'll be back next year, and I look forward to that. Every time I drive back from Southorpe Meadow, I pass this other site, which is Southorpe Paddock, and I always ignore it. I thought I'd pop in today on the way home, just have a quick look. Last time I came here, I absolutely slated it, got absolutely soaked, and found one half-open pyramidal orchid. So I haven't got a lot to beat today to improve on that one. So I'm going to give it another chance. You never know, there might be something here. To say expectations are low is probably an exaggeration there, so I'm not expecting much at all, but let's give it a try. We'll see. Where to start? It actually doesn't look, the grass doesn't look as long this time around, which is a good sign. Last time it was so long I just got soaked from the chest down walking through it, so you never know, you never know. Well, we saw one of these last time we were here, so there's definitely a population of pyramidal orchids that will be on show here in about a month's time. So far nothing else. I'd like to see something else. I'm always encouraged seeing these. Get it in camera. The good old parasitic knapweed broomrape. Ugly things, ugly name, but they grow on sort of limestone grassland, and you know, wherever these grow, orchids should be growing, and they are, but only pyramidal at the moment. So whether it can offer anything else, I'll just accept one common spotted if they've got one, please. I'll have to dig into my butterfly book and work out what that is. There's quite a few of them actually on this stinging nettle. I'll look it up and put it at the bottom of the screen. Well, I guess expectations were low. There's a few dozen pyramidal orchids here for sure. There's an orchid presence here. But that's it, I can't find anything else. I just wanted to find one common spotted just to say they're here, because you know the terrain's pretty good. If the broomrapes grow, orchids should love it here. They need choice conditions, the same choice conditions as the orchids do. You've got, you know, that area, the area just behind me, it's quite marshy. You know, southern marsh should love that. You know, they should be moving in here. And now the grass seems to be a bit shorter than last year. I think it may well have been grazed earlier in the year. Then the common spotted should be filling their boots here, but there just isn't one. It just needs to be, someone needs to chuck a packet of seed in here, give them a foothold, and I think the conditions are fine. The conditions, they'll spread. But yeah, it's pyramidals, and yeah, it's not worth a visit really. Might give it a few years and try again, but yeah, it's still not delivering.